The slide, a story of leadership, hope, and rehabilitation. We're very fortunate to have Jamie Shepard with us, President and CEO of the Shepard Center, Alana Shepard, founder of the Shepard Center, and Sarah Morrison, the CEO of the Shepard Center. A very inspirational story to hear about an organization that has global influence and impact that probably all of us drive by every day on Peachtree Street. And aside from the construction we've seen that's going on that we'll hear more about, it's been an unbelievable organization within this community. I want to also have us remember, please, today the passing of Dr. Manny Patillo a week ago, the celebration of life that will be taking place at Lenbrook coming up. He was 104 years old and a key leader within our community and within our club. And just today we learned of the passing of Joe Bankoff. You may have known Joe had been ill for some time. Got a very nice note from his wife, and they're working out the details with regard to the celebration of life for Joe. So please keep both the Bankoff and Manning families in your prayers as we continue through this week. At this time, let me also invite Shan Cooper to the stage to lead us in the invocation and the pledge. Shan?
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us pray. Gracious and most holy Father, we thank you, God, today for life, for health, and for strength, oh God. We thank you, oh God, for this club, oh God, and everyone that's represented here today, oh God. We pray, oh God, that you would keep us, that you would continue to guide us, oh God, and that you would lend us your wisdom, oh God, so that we would know what to do, when to do, and how to do, oh God. Our soul's desire today, oh God, is just to serve you here in the earth, oh God, that we may make a difference in the lives of those who live in our communities today, oh God. Lord, we do pray for those who have lost loved ones today, oh God. We pray that you would strengthen their hearts, oh God, and that you would give them peace during this time. Lord, I thank you also for just loving us, oh God, for keeping us, for being so kind to us, oh God, for forgiving us when we fail, oh God, and for never, ever leaving us, oh God. Lord, I'm reminded of the words of the prophet Jeremiah, where the word tells us, God, that you know the plans that you have for each and every one of us, and they are to prosper us, oh God, and to allow us to have a good ending. And so we praise you, we honor you, and we thank you for that today, oh God. And as we come together here as a club, oh God, I pray, oh God, and I thank you for the friendship and the love that is shared amongst every member here today. I pray, oh God, that you would allow the food that we receive today, oh God, to be nourishment for our bodies, oh God, but also to never allow us to forget that there are people today that don't have a table at which to sit, don't have food today, God. There are people today that don't have shelter today, oh God. So we desire to be used by you to change their situations. So it is in your name we pray, and we give you glory and honor and praise always. Amen. I love praying, but I forget the pledge. Forgive me, I'm sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Shan. Please be seated. And as you are seated, let's keep a few things in mind. First of all, we have a special sports report. Some of you may have seen that Dornoch was a winner at the Belmont Stakes. And we're very fortunate that several of our members were involved as owners of Dornoch. And I think, Keith Mason, you're here. Where are you, Keith? Okay, Keith. And Keith, I think you mentioned that you had a second horse. Let's give Keith a hand. And Keith, there was a second horse also that was a winner, correct? Yeah. Okay, come up here just 1 second. Tell us about that. And while Keith is doing that, I'm going to ask Keith to come up, the other Keith to come up here with our news members. So Keith, tell us a little bit about the race.
Oh, this race?
Well, this race and any other race.
Oh, okay. Well, this was the Belmont Stakes, which is the third leg of the Triple Crown, and this year it was raced at Saratoga Springs, New York, which is the oldest racetrack in all of America in continuous operation, because the Belmont track in Long Island is under reconstruction. So the race was run at 1.25 miles, and Dornoch is a horse that we own a partnership called West Paces Racing that Larry Conley, another Rotarian, and I started several years ago, and we're fortunately supported by partners like Tommy Holder here and Allison Rand's husband, Alan Zachariah, and a number of other people out of Atlanta and elsewhere. And we bought this horse in the fall of 22 at the Keeneland yearling sale, and then later in the spring of 23, his full brother wins the Kentucky Derby. So value goes up, and obviously our optimism went up. And we also bought another horse that same sale that's called Society Man, which they all have stories behind it, but I won't bore you with that right now. And they have the same sire, Good Magic. Well, as John mentioned, on Saturday, Dornoch goes off as 17-1, one of the longest shots in a 10-horse field in the Belmont Stakes at the 6th post position, ridden by Louis Saez, and gets on the lead and wins the race in a time that was 1 second faster than the Derby time earlier this year. A major accomplishment for us, and we're just so delighted to be a part of it. But then, lo and behold, Society Man, who was also in the Derby with Dornoch 5 weeks ago, runs in the Matt Wynn Stakes at Churchill Downs, which is the other most important race of this weekend in 3-year-old racing, and he wins out of the 7th hole at a 6-1 odds at Churchill. So this has been quite a weekend, and I was just reminded about the premonition that I had about this on Thursday evening. I'd flown in to Saratoga from D.C., and as I was riding up the interstate into Saratoga Springs, there had been a storm previous to that, and there was this huge there was a little rainbow right over Saratoga Springs, and I said to my partners and others, I said, I got a premonition, we are going to win this race. And sure enough, we did. And thank you.
Well, speaking of winners, we have 2 new members today, and our first new winner is Ken Taunton, who will join me on stage along with his co-sponsor, Keith Parker, and also Rodney Bullard and Anna Roach. So come on up, gentlemen.
Well, good afternoon. So just to let you know, Goodwill accepts cash donations as well, with all that good luck, Keith, that you all have experienced. All right. Well, we appreciate it. Well, I'm celebrating my 30th year as a Rotarian this year. And from my very first club back in Richmond, Virginia as a 25-year-old to being in clubs out in Washington State and Texas and California and a number of other places, it's been a real honor to sponsor some fantastic people. And today that continues, as I have the real distinct honor of introducing to the club Mr. Ken Taunton. So Ken, as was mentioned, is co-sponsored by Anna Roach as well as Rodney Bullard. Unfortunately, I guess they could not be here, but he is a fantastic gentleman in the staffing space. So I'll read just a little bit about his background. He founded the Royster Group, a full-service executive and C-suite search firm, by himself, and he has grown it to be one of the more prominent staffing groups here in the Metro Atlanta area, as well as about 20 other states around the country. He's grown the group to become a powerful nonprofit and a real presence in our region. You know, I'm on the membership committee, and there's always a vigorous debate about nonprofits and small businesses. Which ones do you bring in? Well, Ken stands out because, according to the Small Business Administration, he's the very best of the best. His group won the Small Business Administration Georgia Small Business Person of the Year Award through the SBA. And with that accolade comes a visit to the White House and sitting down, sitting down with the Vice President of the United States in the Oval Office in the West Wing. So Ken, in true Rotary tradition, also has very, very strong connections to the community and into nonprofit and volunteer service. Most notably, he works with Sheltering Arms, early childhood education, and has committed lots of time and treasure to that organization. Like many of you around the club, Ken had the wisdom to marry up. He's been married now for a couple of decades to Dr. Leticia Royster, an OBGYN. Let me welcome Ken Taunton to you with one final interesting fact. Ken logged over 239 miles in just 3 days riding his bike. And he recently had a knee replacement, and he's on the mend, but I'm sure he'll top that mark in just another few months. So let me welcome to you Ken Taunton.
Ken, thank you for joining the club. We're the third largest club in the United States. Millions of Rotarians. You're a part of this team now. We appreciate what you're doing in the community, and thanks for riding your bike on behalf of others, too. So,
Thank you.
give me your pen. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Let's give Ken a hand. I'd now like to welcome to the stage Robert Bunch, along with his co-sponsors, J.P. James, Pedro Cherry, and Hala Modelmog. And while Robert and J.P. are joining us on the stage, begin to think about some questions, too, because we'll be talking in just a moment about some key questions of the day in the course of lunch. But let me turn it over to JP to tell you about Robert.
Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. So, really excited to introduce everybody to Robert Bunch. Funny enough, as the CEO of a health insurance company, I coincidentally met Robert over a decade ago working out. And his predecessor, Morgan Kendrick, who is also a good friend of mine, we all worked out together at, I think it was like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. in the morning, and they were very consistent and got to know Robert all through those years. He's an amazing individual, and if you were here at the Sons Rotary event that we just had, he brought 3 of his sons here, got to meet them. It was really wonderful. But I like, gardening and getting fresh vegetables. But Robert likes animals. I have 5 kids and 2 dogs. He's got 3 boys, 3 dogs, 2 cats, a goat, and some chickens. So he can definitely take the award on that front. But having been at Anthem for the past, 24 plus years, he has been making impact in the Georgia community on a consistent basis, and really exciting to see their shift of headquarters and that growth and that opportunity within the community as well. He's been super active in so many of the different nonprofits that many of you are a part of, such as the Metro Chamber, Board of Governors of the Georgia Chamber, the trustees of the Woodruff Arts Center, the Blue Venture Fund, and is also participating, like myself, as a serial investor and entrepreneur in the Buckhead Investment Partners. So I went through this, what they call North Avenue Trade School, just up the street, called Georgia Tech, as otherwise fondly known. And I went through that nightmare. I don't know if anybody went through that nightmare similarly in the computer science program. So I can empathize with Robert's background, being a computer science major at Columbus College, and then getting his master's certificate at Kelley School of Business. So the other thing that I am allergic to that you may not know is bees. On the other hand, Robert, I guess, has some superpower and loves being a beekeeper. So if you need any honey, maybe, Robert, we can ping him to get some good honey tips. So let's welcome Robert to the club.
So, Robert, thank you for being a member of the Rotary Club of Atlanta. I'm going to give you your Rotary pin. We appreciate also your participation last week in the Rotary Sons Day. And as JP mentioned, Robert did win the award for having the most sons here. So you weren't the Brady Bunch, you were the Bunch Bunch.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was good to have everybody here. So let's give Robert another hand. Thank you. Now, as you go through your lunch discussion today, think about these 2 key questions, which are really pivotal. You'll learn more about this when we hear about the Shepherd Center and leadership lessons. How accessible is your workplace for people with disabilities? And what are you doing to promote accessibility in the workplace? Enjoy lunch and get ready for an exciting program. I hope everyone enjoyed their lunch. Please continue to eat and think about these key questions. As I invite our panel to the stage, I'd like to also recognize all guests and visiting Rotarians. If you're a guest or a visiting Rotarian, if you'll please stand. Go ahead, don't be bashful, stand up. Let's give them all a hand, please. Thank you for joining us today. And please, Rotarians, remember to feel free to invite guests. We want to make sure they have the opportunity to hear about our club and the programs we have. And of course, our program today is a particularly inspirational one, the story of leadership, hope, and rehabilitation, featuring Jamie Shepard, his grandmother, Alana Shepard, and Sarah Morrison, in a story that truly is impactful, not just for our community, but for the world. And as we go through the program a little later, we'll have an opportunity for questions and answers. We have a mic right over here. So begin thinking about questions you can ask them about how they created and built what has become really the global center in rehabilitation. Now, actually, we have some breaking news right now. So let me offer the stage and the podium to former president and current board chair, Stephanie Blank. Stephanie, breaking news.
You can tell by the smile on my face that this breaking news is good news. It is not bad news. So we are very honored today. I don't know how many of you have noticed, but we have a very special guest in attendance today. Paula Lawton Bevington is here. Who was our club's first female president. So it seems only fitting that we would now have, for the first time, an annual club award named in her honor. It will be the Paula Bevington Pioneer Award. Paula was a pioneer. She attended an all-girls high school, graduated from St. Mary's College in Notre Dame, and received her JD from Yale. She joined the Peace Corps serving in Washington, D.C. Later, she became a Fulbright scholar and lived in Venezuela. Her first job was with the law firm of Sutherland, Asbill, and Brennan. Paula and her husband raised their 8 children in Wisconsin and returned to Atlanta, where they were both very active Rotarians, very involved in the community. As I mentioned, she was one of the first female members in the Rotary Club, joining in 1987, and was elected the very first female president in 1999. In 2022, Paula became a distinguished Rotarian. She attended Rotary every Monday until she stopped driving a couple of years ago. So we are honored to have her with us today, along with her family. So if you could all please stand and let us recognize you. Well, thank you. And I don't know if you know, but I was 4th in being president after you, so I follow in amazing footsteps. But the news gets even better. So as I mentioned, we are naming an award, the Paula Lawton Bevington Pioneer Award. And so what would the criteria for this award be? Well, it would be a club member in good standing, obviously, somebody who comes to Rotary, who has demonstrated a life of purpose by blazing that new trail that builds a lasting impact to serve our community, who has demonstrated tenacity and the ability to overcome adversity, obstacles, whatever life throws her way. And the definition of a pioneer is someone who is first in any field of inquiry, enterprise, or progress. So in looking at that, who else is someone who has had a lifetime of first? It might be someone who was the first woman elected to be a member of the Buckhead Coalition. Might be the first woman elected as chairman of the Buckhead Coalition. She might also be the first woman elected to the board of directors of Genuine Parts. But she might most importantly have been herself another true pioneer, blazing a trail as co-founder and leader, and if you count the year of planning, it's been 50 years, of the Shepherd Center, a globally recognized leading hospital and rehabilitation center that has changed the lives of so many people, not only in our state, but across the country. So please join me in celebrating and honoring our very, very first Paula Lawton Bevington Pioneer Award to the one and only Alana Shepherd.
You could hear me? The best part is it's named after Paula, my friend. And that I was the one to get it first is an honor that I can't believe. Gosh. Thank you all.
You want me to put this at the table
Sure,
for you?
that'd be good, thanks.
Steffi, thank you for that wonderful presentation. Paula, congratulations to you, and thank you for your leadership. So many attorneys in this room have been influenced by you and the leadership you provide in this community, to Rotary, and to the legal community by and large. Right now, we'll turn it over to Jamie to get this true story, Alana, from the Shepherd family, from Jamie, Alana, and Sarah. Jamie, I'll give you the clicker.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Thought I'd get started just with a brief history of how the genesis of our story and how we started. Story starts in 1973. This is my father, James. He had just graduated from the University of Georgia, and he was going to go work for my grandfather, his father, building roads. And he said he knew he'd never get another vacation again, and so he wanted to travel as much as he could till his money ran out, and so that's what he did. He went through all of Europe, backpacking and hitchhiking, went through all of Africa, doing the same thing. And then day one in South America, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Copacabana Beach. He was on the beach, got hot, went to go catch a wave body surfing. That 12-foot wave smashed him into the ocean floor, breaking his neck. And he always told the story that he knew he was badly hurt and he was going to push off with his arms. And when he tried to do that, he couldn't. And so he tried to kick off with his legs, and that didn't work either. And at that point, he said he knew he was going to drown, and that's what happened. The waves washed him to shore. A lifeguard saw his blue, lifeless body and dragged him out, but left him for dead. And luckily, his friends were there at the beach, and they saw him whenever administered CPR and resuscitated him. He was taken to a local hospital, and that's when my grandparents received what they refer to as the call from hell, the call that no parent wants to get, that their child has been seriously injured. So they were on the next flight that next morning, and you can see Dad there on the left in the hospital in Rio, And the head of the bed, I don't know if you can tell, it's actually propped up with bricks so that they could hang enough weight to straighten the fracture in his neck out. His body was too long for the bed, his foot stuck through the bed rails. And my grandmother had to convince the nurses and doctors there to administer medications and therapies. They would have let him just pass away. And for those of you who know my grandmother, she's a very persuasive woman, so I don't think there was any language barrier in what she was asking them to do. But my grandfather had to stuff his pockets with cash each and every day just to pay the medical bills at the hospital. And finally, after 5.5 weeks, he was stable enough to transfer. They got an Air Force medevac plane, and they flew him to Piedmont Hospital, where he stayed for 10 weeks. You can see him there on the right. That's him in a rotating bed at Piedmont. It was a very rough go even there. He coded several times. Over 6 feet tall, weighed 82 pounds. So just, skin and bones, if you can imagine. So that bed would rotate 360 degrees to keep pressure off his skin, keep him from developing pressure injuries. And my grandparents had an army of volunteers and family members and friends that would lay on the ground and hold up newspapers and magazines and books for him to read, just to keep his mind sharp, to keep him engaged, to keep hope alive. But he really wasn't getting much better, and so someone finally told our family about a special hospital in Denver that specialized in spinal cord care. And my grandfather flew out there, and he came back and he told my grandmother and my dad, this is where we need to go. And so they flew out there. And after 3 months, he was able to wean off his ventilator. He started to get sensation back in his extremities. And after 4.5 months, picture on the left there, he walked out with a leg brace and a crutch. So truly amazing story, and everybody was really happy about it and got home and everybody celebrated, and the question started to be asked, why did we have to go halfway across the country to get this specialized care? Somebody should do something in Atlanta, there should be something in the Southeast. That became the breakfast table conversation, the dinner table conversation, and somebody ended up being them, despite no background in healthcare along the way, and started out with 6 leased beds in what was West Paces Ferry Hospital at the time. It was an HCA facility, so for-profit or not-for-profit. Didn't, as you can imagine, the cultures didn't mix very well. And so over the next several years, my grandmother worked very, very hard to beg and borrow and plead and ask any family, friend, or neighbor or business partner for enough money to build our own place. And in 1982, they were able to make that possible. Started with 40 beds. They're on Peachtree Road. Thought it would take a handful of years to fill those up. They were full immediately. Shelled in 40 more above that and thought it would be 10 years before that was ever used. 2 years later, it was full, and we've been growing ever since then. Currently licensed for 152 beds. We have 7 outpatient clinics. We're a leader nationally in the multiple sclerosis space. We have I know people here have talked several times about our Share Military program that treats post 9/11 veterans, first responder, service members with PTSD and traumatic brain injuries. We are a national provider. Half our patients come from the state of Georgia. The other half come from all across the country. So really serving the entire country in what we do. We are under Sarah's leadership. We're over halfway through our largest campaign ever. Have raised $387 million under Sarah Batt's leadership, and have 2 new buildings. 2 new buildings coming online and some major renovations after that, which will allow us to expand access, treat even more patients, and eventually get up to 200 beds. So really exciting times. Really have a bigger footprint on Peachtree Road today, much more visible. As John said, we've kind of been a little hidden gem back in there next to Piedmont, so we're really excited about that presence. But no, y'all are not here to hear me talk today, so I'll start by asking these ladies, wonderful women, some questions. So no healthcare experience at all in the family, no knowledge of what it would do to take to run a hospital. How did you provide the leadership to make it happen?
Well, my dad was a veterinarian, so I have watched some stuff that most people might not watch.
Microphone.
Oh. My dad was a veterinarian, so I'd watch some things most people don't watch. But I don't do that now. My granddaughter does, though. She scrubs in a lot of times with people who are particularly amputees who are losing a limb, and they want her to go with them. So she does. But when we found Dr. Apple, we knew we needed a medical director. And so he said, well, I know it's going to go because it's so needed, and I'll do the medical and you all do the rest. And we had no idea what the rest was going to be. Oh my gosh. But Harold used all of his friends in the road construction business and the industry to chime in and give us money for seed money, and our friends in the community that we had great connections with. Luckily, we had some friends who had great resources. One of them sitting right over there. And they have stayed with us for years and years. And so, you know, it's sort of evolved, and you learn. I love people, I guess. That's one of the things. I like to talk to I'll talk to anybody, and I do. And I really enjoy it. And so getting to know people on that level, it's the same thing with the patients today. If I see an ambulance come in, I try to meet them in the front hall and say, everybody, even the switchboard girls who are there in the front, say, welcome to Shepherd when the patient comes in the door. That doesn't happen every place in the country. And so right then you set the tone for what we're doing. And Sarah's been good about continuing that, for sure.
Sarah, you've been with us for 40 years this August. Talk about your transition from a physical therapist to CEO and that leadership journey.
All right, well, I'll start a little bit farther back. I was born in Saratoga, thankfully not on the track. Local hospital, obviously. Yeah. So I was a physical therapist. Well, I wasn't a physical therapist yet. I went to school at University of Miami, where I was a springboard diver. And in my sophomore year, I was doing a dive off that 10-meter platform, the 33 1/3 feet, not that I'm counting. Landed wrong, broke my back, and was in a body cast for 9 months. I couldn't take it off. So I thought my diving career was over. I was going to lose my scholarship. But fortunately, I had a good physical therapist that got me my flexibility back and my strength back, and I did go back to national competing. But that's what got me interested in physical therapy. I really thought I was going to work with kids, pediatrics. There's one problem with kids. Anybody know what it is? They come with parents. Yes. So most of you who know me don't believe this, but I was an extremely shy teenager until I was about 21. So a parent talking to me, coming at me about their kid, it's like, ooh, I can't do that. So I did a rotation at Jackson Memorial Hospital in their spinal cord injury unit, and I just fell in love with it. I got to use the knowledge that I learned in school, and got somebody who, after a spinal cord injury, they couldn't roll, they couldn't sit up, they couldn't get into a chair. If fortunate enough where they had some return of movement or sensation, we can, hopefully get them up walking again. And that was extremely rewarding to me. So my very last day of class, I go into the student lounge, and there's this big poster, Shepherd Center's growing from 40 beds to 80 beds. I went, ooh, and my husband and I already decided we were moving to Atlanta, so I came and did an interview. They said they don't hire new grads, and I said, okay, I'll go somewhere else. Then the director of physical therapy got 3 resignations, and the new grad was looking pretty good. So I started Shepherd September 17th, so it'll be my 40th year. And, I never dreamed of being the CEO. I knew I liked leadership, like Alana. I like people. I like getting to know people, building relationships. So anytime something became available, whether it was a supervisor, a manager, director, then it was VP of Clinical Services, which is now Jamie's position, and then now CEO. So it's been a long ride. It's changed quite a bit. As far as, was there a second part to that, or did I already?
How did you transition from clinician to leader?
Well, I think just that. I really like people, and I liked leading. As we get older, getting old stinks, as many of us know. And I knew I couldn't do that very physical work anymore. So leadership became what I like to do. And so as positions became available, I just applied for it, and I did get it. When Gary was going to retire, Gary Lucany was our previous CEO, we were also losing our chief medical officer. And they had asked me to come on as CEO, and I went, no way, I don't want that job. And then James asked me again, and I said, well, no, I'm not going to do it. I like being second. If it goes well, I take the credit. If it goes poorly, I blame Gary. I kind of liked that gig.
It's a good one.
Yeah. But eventually James convinced me, and I said, okay, I'm going to probably only do that for about 8 years, and which was perfect because Jamie now is going to be my successor. So it's been a ride.
Most people that haven't visited think of Shepherd Center maybe as a depressing place where people are suffering and in pain. But you've done an amazing job with the culture. You said, you greet everyone that comes in that you see. It's such a positive, uplifting place. How did you create the culture from that perspective?
We decided that if the staff wasn't happy and thinking of fun things to do, then the patients wouldn't be happy, and it would be the most dismal place in the world. So in orientation, they know that they are supposed to have eye contact and speak to everyone they pass in the hall, whether it's the cleaning people, the environmental services, one of the doctors. And at that point, I must tell you that it seems to me that in medical school, doctors are taught to walk along and look at the baseboard. You've all seen them do it in the hospitals. They don't want eye contact with you. No, they're not going to have it. The minute we have 187 consulting staff next door, as well as about 30 employed physicians of our own. When those doctors come through the tunnel into Shepherd, they all say they immediately feel different. They have a change of attitude, and that carries on. The therapists are absolutely nuts. I mean, they're effervescent, they're crazy, they're thinking of fun things to do, and they keep it stirred up all the time. Well, then the patients realize they can be that way too. The adolescents have toilet papered her office 2 or 3 times. They've put Post-it notes all over Jamie's office. They come down and play tricks on you, but they love the life. They realize they're the same people they were before they got injured, and that's what's so important. So you see that attitude, and it's really just heartwarming to see. And that's why we have such good outcomes. And the families buy into this also, and they get to know each other, and it's just a great environment.
This woman's been an unpaid volunteer for 48 plus years, despite some of her husband's urgings to take a salary along the way. But she's done an amazing job with the culture, and we have over 200 consulting physicians, and if they're on a phone or not saying hello, she will call them out as they're walking down the hall, and it sends a message for sure.
Yeah, some of them get kind of startled when you speak to them, but their mind is elsewhere as they're walking. I will give them that credit. They're busy, and they're thinking of the best thing they can do for the patient they're fixing to see, so I understand that, but it's still just the way we do it at Shepherd. It's the Shepherd way.
Sarah, you're our second ever CEO. How have you maintained that special culture and unique culture and pushed it forward?
Well, one, I've been there for a very long time, could build relationships. I saw this woman working the floors, so did the same. I forgot my train of thought. What was your question?
Have you maintained?
Oh, how have I met? Good Lord, have mercy. But it did start with a family. It starts with knowing and building relationships. And we do a lot for our staff. For example, recognition is one of our huge things. We have 10 or 15 different recognition awards for staff. We didn't, when hospitals started really losing money, for providing services that insurance didn't cover, we never cut our education or our career development or professional development monies for staff. We want them to be the best. We urge them to do the best they can, go back to school, keep learning. So it's those kinds of things, and having fun. I would love Jamie to talk about April Fool's jokes that James started way back in the day. But it's hard work, it's unique work, but we work hard and play hard, and that makes a huge difference with our patients and families. Tell them about April Fools.
Yeah, so Dad always was a prankster and loved to have fun and pull jokes on people. And so April 1st, he had a tradition of sending out a organizational-wide email about something silly that was going on or might be going on. He sent one out about closing down one of our programs at one point in time, which people were in tears the next day. But as after he passed, I've carried on that tradition. So one of the best ones was that we've had a part of our new building. Everything's under construction. And so I sent out an email, I think it was on a Saturday or Sunday, happened to be the first, that there was a gas leak and that we needed to, everything was going to be okay, but for a couple weeks there was going to be really delicate work splicing this gas line together and all this stuff. And the contractor, who will remain unnamed, actually called me the next Monday, very, very concerned about what was going on. We had an employee that didn't park in the deck for like 2 months after that because they thought it was real. But always like to have fun and do fun things.
Talking about having fun, we have a lot of sports teams that we sponsor. There are 14, in fact, and one of them is a tennis team. And so Ken Byers is a tennis player, and one day we got him over there after much begging and put him in a chair to play in a tennis chair with the canted wheel so he wouldn't tip over to play with one of the women. And he thought, yeah, what'd you think? You thought you were going to have an easy time of it, didn't you? Yes. So he sends this little tukey shot over the net to the woman. She slammed something back at him that nearly killed him, and he said, my gosh. So we were proving to him for sure, and I think he went on and played, had a good time, and he realizes that wheelchair tennis is a great sport. It's not just messing around. So you were a good sport to do that. But everybody who comes kind of feels that it's a different place. They are reluctant at first, and then they say, I've never been in a place where people are so badly injured and everybody has a smile on their face. And the staff is smiling. And you say, I don't get it. How do you do it? But it's because they're going to get better, and if you're the one who didn't really feel like going to 7 hours of therapy that day and everybody else does, you really don't want to be a jerk. So you're going to make the effort, and it rewards you because maybe you got a finger movement back that day or something, a wrist. And that's a big deal. And then when you're up in the gyms, everybody that's had that experience can't wait to tell you, look, I just got a wrist today. And it's so rewarding and so special. I need to tell you how leadership went for me. Is that okay? I'll jump around on your subjects.
Whatever you want.
Raymond Riddle had been on one of our fundraising campaigns, and he decided that the bank needed a woman director. So he came to me and said, would I join the First National Bank Board, which became Wachovia and then Wells Fargo, as you know. And I jumped at the chance. I loved it. I loved everything except the audit committee because I hate that. But the rest of it was fascinating and interesting. And so then Wilton Looney and Larry Prince decided that maybe they needed to look at me. They had a group of Dominican nuns in Wisconsin that was having a fit for them to have a woman director. They were not going to stand still. They were going to make an issue of it at the board meetings. And so they came to me and said, would I join Genuine Parts? Well, I knew about Genuine Parts anyway because Harold's father had been one of the first customers, and in the road construction industry, Genuine Parts, you're one of their best customers. So I wasn't a naive person joining that board. And then the Buckhead Coalition tapped me to be the first woman and the first woman president. Well, that was kind of Sam's thing. He thought that would give him publicity. Sam Massell was a publicity hound, as many of you know. And he would do anything to get his name in the coalition in the paper. So he asked me, and Loudermilk called him up and said, she's going to make your life miserable. Well, of course, Sam came right to me and told me what he said. And that's just the way those guys are. But I rolled with being called one of the guys and all that stuff. It didn't bother me. I just laughed at them and went right on. I didn't get mad. I didn't get angry. And so they kept me on, and it was a great experience. But that's kind of where some of my leadership has come from, or the benefits of it. Actually, 2 of those were salaried, and I wasn't getting a salary anyplace else, so that was fabulous.
Well, and obviously, through the bridges that she built through her leadership, allowed other women like myself to get leadership positions as well. So thank you, Alana.
Sarah, under your leadership, we've undertaken the largest campaign ever in the middle of the pandemic. Talk about your vision, how it's been executed, and kind of what's next because of that.
All right. In 2017, I was talking to James, and we were talking about when we were going to turn 50, which is 2025. And so we just started talking, and over several months, and created what we call today is Vision 2025. Because of COVID, it's really Vision 2027 now. But we really looked at our patients and our families being our true north. We wanted every decision to be based on, will this make it better for our patients and families? So we have three essentially legs of this stool. One, patient experience. We want to look at patient experience. So we build, or are building, 165-bed family housing. Arthur M. Blank donated quite heavily for that. And this will allow the patients and families who live more than 60 miles away from Shepherd Center to stay overnight for free for as long as their loved one is at Shepherd. And that really helps with our outcomes. We need the family members there. We want to train them. We want to make sure that they are prepared to go home. The other thing we're going to do from a patient experience perspective is once we open these new beds, which we're very excited about, every room will be a smart room. So, if a patient comes in and they're paralyzed from the neck down, they can say, hey, Alexa, turn on my TV, raise and lower my bed. I'm cold, so turn up the temperature. I keep telling Alana we're going to change it to Alana, turn on my TV.
The adolescents think that's very funny, and most of them
I think it's funny too.
Most of them call me Alana, which is really funny. I love it.
All right, so patient experience, number one. Number two, we have some access issues. We still turn away about 200 to 250 patients a year because we just don't have capacity. Also, in some of our outpatients, Jamie mentioned a few of them, some of our outpatients take a really long time, like 6 months to get a first visit appointment. So we're growing our multiple sclerosis program, we're growing our pain program. Day programs will eventually move there. Concussion clinic, growing our share military can double that. So really looking at access. And then the third one I'm most excited about is our Innovation Institute, which will take up one full floor of our Marcus Center for Advanced Rehab. And this really has 4 guiding principles, really. And when you hear the word innovation, some people think, big technology. Sometimes our patients just seem like, well, all I need is a little cuff I can put on my hand so I can put a fork in it and eat my meals. So innovation means different things to different people. But first thing, we're going to look at discoveries, really continuing our research projects. We have, at any given time, about 70 research projects going on all the time with spinal cord injury, brain injury, multiple sclerosis, and pain. So working on that, really looking for cures. And, the cure may or may not happen in my lifetime, but until a cure does happen for those catastrophic diseases and injuries, we really want to work on recovery. We have 25 years of medical record data that we want to do predictive analytics. So if we have 2 patients that appear exactly the same, this analytics might say, well, this person should get treatment A to recover faster and better, and this person should have treatment B. So I'm very excited about that. So really looking at predictive analytics and rehabilitation. The third is really looking at our technologies, getting people independent. We had a physical therapist work on a device for over 10 years. It's an exoskeleton device that a patient, even if they're paralyzed from the chest down, can get up, walk, go up and down stairs, outdoor terrain, etc. We want to do more of that, and getting some key partnerships to allow us to do that. And then the fourth is health and wellness. So we'll have a full continuum of care from ICU all the way through many years after injuries to keep people healthy and well.
Outstanding. Listen, we want to go ahead and have folks ask questions, so please come up to the mic. With respect to the technology side of things, though, it's really innovative. You've got some of your technology team here. Tell us a little bit about some of the people that are here today from Shepherd, so folks know about the rest of your leadership team, too.
Sure, I'll start in the back over, and if I miss somebody, raise your hand. Sarah Batts is our Senior VP of Foundation. She is the mastermind behind a $387-ish million. We have Joe Tapper, our VP of PR and Marketing, going over here. Dr. Debbie Backus, who is our VP of Innovation and Research. Anybody else? Oh, Elise Kirkby. I don't know your direct title. Project manager? Okay. So she's also at the Innovation Institute.
And Tell us also, and maybe, Alana, maybe you can talk about people that want to come visit and understand what's going on at Shepherd, because people drive by it all the time. Is that something you encourage? Is that something that you and Sarah and Jamie want people to do to understand it better?
We have tours every week. We have tours every week, and just say, I would like to get on one. Call anybody in the foundation, and they'll make sure you get there, and you'll get to see our ICU. We're the only people that have ICU in this setting in the country. Therefore, we get the most horribly injured people, and we take ventilator patients. Most people don't. Nobody takes them under 18 except for us. We have the only adolescent program. So lots of things that they'll see, and they get to go through therapy and actually talk to the patients and see them in their therapy, and most of them are ready to talk. I mean, they're dying to see somebody who's not grinding their muscles again. So don't hesitate if you want to come.
It's a life-changing event. Listen, we have also some leadership lessons, but we have some good questions. So Jennifer, you want to start out with a question?
Yes, this is not a planted question. I really want to know. Thank you so much, Alana, for teaching us about the dangers of headfirst diving. It's actually changed my behavior at the lake so much this summer, and my whole family. I've been telling my teenage daughters for years that they shouldn't get on a scooter, and that if they went to the Shepherd Center and visited it, then I would talk to them about scooters. So I'm curious, I feel like they present a really serious danger, and we're all accepting it so casually. What do y'all think about scooters?
I think they're horrible because we see them go up and down Peachtree, zooming along with no helmet. Oh my gosh. And for a while, James said, I don't think we should accept them if they get in a wreck and get hurt and they didn't have their helmet on, but that's not the way that works. But, I mean, it really is a danger, and I don't know what the scooter people are going to do about it. But bicycles are the thing, too. We have more people hurt on bicycles, and you may or may not have a helmet on. You certainly should. And it's interesting, more doctors are on bicycles as the cause of their injury than other people. That's weird.
Do you see a lot of scooter incidents?
We have. Over the last it hasn't been many, but over the last 2 years, maybe 5 or 6. One is too many.
Great. Next question. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patrick O'Carroll with the Task Force for Global Health. First of all, congratulations on what you've done. It's just extraordinary. And now that it's here, it seems like it was an inevitability, but obviously it was the result of leadership and support and years of careful growth. My question is, can you think of some key elements to a formula if other countries or other places in the world wanted to do what you've done, to provide care, and maybe perhaps not at the level that you're able to do now?
We have a program. We have, on the internet, we have programs on spinal care, and they're used by how many different countries? 41 or something like that. And so these people are, I mean, there are thousands of people watching them. We are trying to help. What we do is not a secret. Everybody could get better. And of course, other countries are not as advanced. Well, some aren't. Some are. And for instance, we helped, that we had a young patient from the Netherlands, and his family was very affluent. So when they went back, he'd had a head injury. They wanted to start a hospital. So we sent our staff over there and helped them start it. And that hospital is going. It's not in one of the major cities, but it definitely is making a difference in the Netherlands. So we're glad to share what we do. And we've had patients from 72 foreign countries, I believe.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
So, yes.
Jeff.
I first want to compliment your leadership lessons. They've been getting so redundant, like listen well, serve the people. And these I've never seen, and there's so much you, Alana, and maybe you could add number 4, tell the truth, be honest, and move on with it. But we have some leaders in Atlanta who are third-generation leaders, and you don't always see that. Throughout the world, there's always been a problem that by the time you get to a third generation, a business falls apart. What have you done, or what, Jamie, have your parents and grandparents done, have fired you up to keep working so hard, to keep this passion? Or Alana, what have you done as a grandmother to keep it going through the different generations?
Thanks for that great question, Jeff. It's actually a second career for me, so I was in construction the first 12 years of my life. I didn't want to do that. Went back to school at night, got an MBA, tried to figure out what I wanted to do, and when my grandfather heard that, he said, you need to come to the hospital. And I said, well, maybe. I've been talking to people in different industries, and he worked on me for about a year. And I knew I'd always have some sort of tie, whether it be board or just, helping raise money through events and stuff like that. But when I went there and talked to folks and senior leaders about what it could be like, what work-life balance was like, and being able to represent the family and the community and really help people, I mean, it just, like you said, it stoked a fire within me to step up and try to lead it forward.
Well, thank you.
John.
First of all, Alana, congratulations on winning the first Paula Award. And Paula, it's great to see you today. Speaking of those tours, John, 25 years ago, my wife and I took one of those. If you haven't taken one, I'm telling you, it's one of the best experiences of your life. Get over there, get on the list. You're still giving them, right? Okay, that's fantastic. The other question is, our firm's been doing a lot of the cookouts. Do you still do the cookouts? If so, would you explain a little bit about that?
We stopped during COVID, of course. Yes,
Okay.
We're doing the cookouts again. And we're also doing Tuesday night dinners. This is interesting for patients and their families and their visitors. And last week, I think on Tuesday night, we set up the tables in the fourth floor gym. We had 90 folks. And CWC, our provider of furniture for the apartment tower, was the host. And they had called in barbecue or something. It could have been taco night. And we take a microphone around. Every patient introduces themselves. They can tell, we want to know, first of all, where they're from, because there's somebody else who's maybe from the same town or someplace nearby. They know where they're from. They get to know everybody's name. And it's a cohesive thing for the families. And this is just a super thing. And then a lot of people, like Buckhead baseball teams, will come, brownie groups, people's children, and they'll run a bingo game or another game after dinner, and with prizes, and that's great. And these kids get the most out of it. I mean, little people who are 5 and 6 years old will deliver the gift cards to the bingo winner, and they are just thrilled to be part of it. And some of the volunteers will feed the patients who are unable to feed themselves, which frees up their nurse to get back on the floor. So it's a great experience, and even just drop in to the fourth floor for 15 minutes to look to see what goes on. You'll be impressed. I mean, it's a great Tuesday evening, and we're doing it every Tuesday of the year. So it's fun.
So Jamie, I want to ask you about this last leadership point, maybe as we close this presentation, and a wonderful opportunity to listen to the story about the Shepherd Center and leadership and honoring Paula Bevington. This issue of take on issues immediately. Oftentimes you hear leaders say, well, listen, we need to sit back and really study this issue. We need to think about it a long time. We need to figure out how we're going to deal with it. Tell us a little bit about how taking on these issues immediately is important, especially in the healthcare arena, and how it's influenced the decision-making at Shepherd.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Something doesn't go right, you better fix it right that minute. Don't wait. Say, go to whoever's upset and say, this should never have happened. What can I do to make it better for you and your family? And right away, that clears it. I mean, things happened every place in your setting of business, but don't put it off. Do something right away. I used to say I had more crow's feathers sticking out of my mouth than anybody I knew, because you go and eat crow, even if you don't agree with them, just make it better.
I think you can get a lot of smart people in the room, and there's paralysis by analysis sometimes, and sometimes you just got to make the call, go forward, and deal with the consequences.
So my final question, Jamie, is this. When I ask you to be here today to moderate this discussion, I was tactful about it, but I said, Jamie, I've met your grandmother on several occasions, and she's a wonderful, amazing person, but do you think you can control the discussion that's going on up there? And you said quite directly, my grandmother's a wonderful person, and she will listen to me, and I listen to her. And so it's true, listening is talked about a lot, but I think the communication is unique. Maybe it's a final comment. Tell us about that unique communication, because very few people are in a situation where their grandmother started an organization and you're now going to be the CEO. And Sarah, I know you've given a lot of advice to Jamie, so how does it work, Jamie?
As my grandfather said, he made all the important decisions in the household. There just never was one to make. But it is an interesting dynamic. But I mean, 94 years young and just, run circles around me. So I definitely listen when she speaks, but I'm not afraid to push back and give my opinion when needed.
It's a wonderful organization, and you've done a great job. I want to thank Paula Bevington for being with us today. a wonderful honor. The Pioneer Award is outstanding. And Alana, thank you for being the first recipient. Let's give the entire panel of Alana a hand, please.